In the heart of revolutionary France, during the blood-soaked days of the Reign of Terror, one man's hands held the power to end life with a single stroke. A simple executioner, his job as much a part of the world as the guillotine that awaited its next victim. But what happens when the blade begins to thirst for more than just blood? When the echoes of the dead refuse to stay silent? This is the story of one such man, a young executioner named Etienne, whose survival became entwined with the very terror he helped to create. Etienne was not always the man who stood at the guillotine. He was born in the poorest of families, a simple boy with no future. But when the revolution came, it offered him an opportunity. A dark one, but an opportunity nonetheless. The guillotine was a tool of the revolution. It was power. It was survival. And Etienne was soon selected to wield that power. I never thought the blade would become something more. At first, I simply did my duty. But it was not duty I felt. It was fear. Fear of what I was becoming. Fear of what I was doing. With every execution, Etienne felt the weight of history pressing down on him. But it wasn't just the faces of the condemned that haunted him. It was the eyes of the spirits that appeared after each death. First, just glimpses in the shadows, then clearer, always watching, always waiting. One night after a particularly brutal execution, Etienne walked home under the cover of darkness. The air was thick with the stench of death, but there was something else, a presence. It was a cold chill that crept down his spine. But when he turned, no one was there. At first, I thought I was imagining it, a trick of the mind. But then, they came closer. The shadows followed him. Figures, those of the condemned, flickered in the corners of his vision. Their faces were twisted in terror. Their eyes were wide, pleading, but no sound escaped their lips. At first it was one, then two, but soon they were everywhere. Faces screaming without sound, reaching for me. It was the guillotine, the cursed blade. Its hunger for fear was insatiable. Each life taken fed it. Each death strengthened its grip on Etienne. The terror he witnessed, it fed it all. And now, it wanted him. As the visions grew stronger, Etienne's guilt also grew. He could no longer distinguish between the dead and the living. Their eyes burned into him, accusing, blaming him for their untimely ends. And every time he closed his eyes, the shadow of the guillotine towered over him. Why did I ever agree to this? I didn't ask for this curse. I didn't ask to become the one who delivered death. In his waking hours, he began to question everything. Was it truly the revolution that had given him a purpose, or had the blood of the guillotine turned his soul to ash? He sought answers in books, in old tales of cursed blades and restless spirits. The answer, when it came, was chilling. The blade is more than metal. It is a conduit for terror. It feeds on the fear of the condemned, and when that fear is great enough, it awakens a force beyond death, something older, something darker. Etienne understood then that he was no longer in control. The blade had a hunger, a thirst for terror, and the more it fed, the closer it came to devouring him entirely. One night, Etienne could no longer take it. The spirits had become relentless. He fled his home, desperate to escape the torment. But no matter where he went, they followed. The walls of the city seemed to close in on him. The spirits, the shadows, they were everywhere. He couldn't outrun them. In his panic, Etienne stumbled into an abandoned chapel, its walls covered in the markings of forgotten rituals. But there was no escape. The blade, the spirits, they were no longer just following him. They had come to collect. Leave me be. I didn't mean for this. I never wanted this curse. The shadows began to take form, materializing into the faces of the dead. eyes hollow, faces twisted in eternal fear. Etienne realized the truth too late. The blade was not just cursed. It was a prison, trapping the souls of the guilty. And now, it wanted him as its final prisoner. Etienne stood, backed against the cold stone wall of the chapel, surrounded by the spirits of the dead. He could feel the weight of their anger pressing on him, the terrifying hunger of the blade drawing closer with each passing second. "What do you want from me? I've already given everything." He had one choice left. Surrender to the terror. Let the blade take him and end his suffering, or find a way to destroy it. But how could he fight a force older than the revolution itself? In the end, Etienne's choice was made for him. The cursed blade would never let him go, and neither would the shadows that followed. What would you have done? Would you have tried to escape, or would you have embraced the terror? Share your thoughts below. And if you found yourself gripped by this story, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others. Because in the darkest of times, some curses never end.